Alright guys, so now we're going to take a look at tuples and sets, which are two different data types. We're going to take a look at tuples first, which are a collection which is ordered and unchangeable. Okay, that's very important. Unchangeable allows duplicate members. So let's go ahead and create a simple tuple. So to do that, we'll create a variable. I'm going to call it fruit underscore tuple. And tuples they use parentheses. Okay, so lists use brackets and tuples use parentheses. And let's say apple, let's say orange, and let's say mango. All right, so if we do that and we go ahead and we print our fruit tuple, and now we want to make sure you run the right file. So Python 3, it's called, what is it called? Tuples underscore sets.py. And there it is. So there's our tuple. So if we want to get actually before we do that, I want to show you another way to create one, and that's using the constructor. Okay, just like with lists, you can use a tuple constructor. So if I wanted to, let's say, let's just copy this line here, and we could say equals tuple, and then just wrap that like that, comment that out, and that should give us the same result. Okay, so either way, but I'm going to uncomment the first one and comment this one out. So if we want to get a single value, so we could say print and say fruit tuple, and just like as if it were a list, we could go ahead and put in a position, let's say 1, and run it, and we get orange. Now, this is very important right here, and this is that these are unchangeable. So if I were to take that position or that index and say equals, let's change it to grape. I'm going to say cannot change value. So let's try to run this, and we get an error. So it says tuple object does not support item assignment. Okay, so it's constant. You cannot change any of these values. And there's different situations where you would use a tuple over lists and stuff like that. Another thing to know about tuples is if they only have one value, you should leave a trailing comma. Okay, so I'm going to say tuples with one value should have trailing comma. So for example, let's say if I say fruit tuple 2 and I wanted it just to have apple, what I would do is I'd say apple. Actually, let me show you what happens if I print this out. Oops. So we'll say print out 2. Whoops, I have to comment this out because this is throwing an error because I'm trying to assign something. All right, so we just get apple like as a string, but if I put an ending comma here and I print this out, now it actually it's the tuple. Okay, so you want to include that because notice before it didn't have the parentheses. If you want the length, of course, you can use the len. Let's do fruit tuple. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that, we get an error, and that's because, why is that? Unexpected EOF by parsing. Oh, I have a missing parentheses. All right, so let's run that, and we get 3. So you can't delete individual items from the tuple, but you can delete the tuple as a whole. So let's say this fruit tuple 1, we want to delete this. We could just simply use del fruit tuple 2, and if I try to print that out, or even the length of it, we get an error because fruit tuple 2 is no longer defined. I deleted it using the del keyword. Okay, so now let's move on to sets. So I'm actually going to comment out the prints here just so we don't get confused. And we're going to move on to sets, which are collections which are unordered and unindexed, and there's no duplicate members. Okay, so that's important. There's no duplicate members. And sets use curly braces. So let's clear that out. And let's create a set. Okay, so I'm going to say fruit underscore set. And you want to use curly braces now. Let's say apple, orange, and mango. Okay, we'll just say create set, and if we go down here and print fruit set and run this file, shows us our set. So if I try to add in apple and I run this, notice that it's not there. Okay, it's going to basically just ignore it because no duplicate members. Okay, so keep that in mind. If we want to check to see if something is in a set, we could do like let's say check if in set. So we could do print, and let's say apple in fruit set. And if we run that, we get true. If I say apples and we run that, we get false. If we want to add to a set, we can say fruit set, and we can use the add method. So dot add, and let's say grape. Okay, so if we go down here and we print our fruit set and run that, notice that grape has been added. Okay, if we want to remove something, we can do that as well. So I'm going to copy this, and let's say dot remove. We'll say remove from set, and now when I run it again, grape is gone. Okay, we removed it. We can also clear the set completely. So if we say fruit set dot clear, and we go ahead and run this and try to print it, it's just going to be just this empty set. Okay, it's still there, it's just there's nothing in it. If you want to completely delete it, then you use del. Okay, so if we say del fruit set and we run that, then we're going to get an error saying that fruit set is not defined. So it's just like if we never even defined it at all. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go with tuples and sets. In the next video, we're going to take a look at dictionaries, which are very similar to JavaScript objects or Ruby on Rails or Ruby hashes. They come in very handy, and we'll be using them quite a bit in Django, and usually use them a lot in Python. All right, so we'll get to dictionaries next.